But I say that it is not power that corrupts us. It is pressure that corrupts us. And then power comes along and isolates us from the harm we might be causing. Because when I say pressure corrupts us, what does that mean? It means we act out in ways that we may not be proud of.
Our guest is Sabina Nawaz, an elite executive coach, keynote speaker, and author. She shares her insights on pressure-proofing your leadership. Join us for episode 415 of Growth Igniters Radio with Pam Harper and Scott Harper.
This episode is brought to you by Business Advancement Incorporated, enabling successful leaders and companies to accelerate to their next level of success. On the web at businessadvance.com. And now, here's Pam and Scott.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Pam Harper, founding partner and CEO of Business Advancement Incorporated. And as always, my business partner and husband, Scott Harper, is right here with me.
Hi, everybody. It's wonderful to be with you again. And as always, our purpose here is to ignite new insights, inspiration, and immediately useful ideas that can help visionary leaders ignite game-changing innovation, transformation, and growth.
And remember, Growth Igniters Radio is only one of the ways we help top leadership teams ignite game-changing innovation and transformational growth. Curious about how we might help you in your company? Well, let's talk. Visit businessadvance.com today and schedule a call with us.
Now, one of the biggest leadership challenges we all face these days, it's no secret, unrelenting pressure.
Yes, pressure. Pressure from uncertainty, pressure from complexity, pressure from your many stakeholders about all kinds of issues. This can take a toll on any of us and even create a sense of isolation.
Not only that, unrelenting pressure can drive a wedge between how we'd like to show up as leaders, and how we actually behave.
That's why it's essential to understand this dynamic.
Yeah.
This can enable us to return to our better selves and become even more effective as leaders. And someone else who's seen this is our guest today, Sabina Nawaz. Now, here's a bit about her background. She's an elite executive coach, speaker, and author. She advises C-level executives and teams at Fortune 500 corporations, government agencies, nonprofits, and academic institutions around the world. Sabina gives dozens of keynote seminars and speeches at conferences each year and teaches faculty at Northeastern and Drexel Universities. Especially impressive is that during her 14-year tenure at Microsoft, she went from managing software development teams to leading the company's executive development and succession planning efforts for over 11,000 managers and nearly 1,000 executives. This included advising Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer directly. Sabina's written for and been featured in major business media, including Harvard Business Review, Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Fast Company, NBC, Nasdaq, and MarketWatch, and more. She's also the author of the book, You're the Boss, Become the Manager You Want to Be and Others Need.
It was published in 2025, and it's going to be the subject of a lot of what we're going to be talking about today.
You can read much more about Sabina Nawaz by going to growthignitersradio.com, episode 415, and scrolling down to the bio link in resources. Sabina, welcome to Growth Igniters Radio.
Thank you so much, Pam and Scott. I'm really excited to talk with you because your mission and mine seem to meld really well together. And I'm looking forward to discussing the times our clients are facing and how we help them not become pressure-free, but pressure-proof.
So let's start at the beginning, so to speak. What prompted you to write your book, You're the Boss?
Well, there were a few things, Pam. One is that as an executive coach, I interview about a dozen coworkers for each client to get a sense of what it's like to work with this person. Over the years, I collected 12,000 pages of data, verbatim, uncensored, well, somewhat censored, but really top of mind, what's it like to work for these bosses? And I thought this is really valuable information that not everybody can have an executive coach, nor should they. But this is your executive coaching in a book for $30 instead of going and hiring an exec coach.
You brought it to life at a very interesting time in the world, too. There's so much going on, and you call yourself a minimalist contrarian, which was fascinating. So, how does this come out in the book?
There are two things. First of all, minimalist. In our world today, as you all mentioned, there is unrelenting and massive amounts of pressure. If we come out with a book or with coaching or a workshop or a talk that says, do this and do that, and you're not enough here and you're deficient there, people are going to tune you out. Not because you're not saying something useful and good, but because there is absolutely no bandwidth to do that. So I'm a huge fan of what I call micro habits. Do something so ridiculously small that it's actually possible to do it every day. And our brain works in a funny way. When we succeed in doing that ridiculously small thing, say one push-up a day, then we are more excited to do it the next day, as opposed to saying, oh my gosh, I'm such a loser. I didn't go to the gym again for 30 minutes. So that's the minimalist piece of your question.
Little dopamine hits.
Yes, it's little dopamine hits, micro doses. So let's micro dose on dopamine. Let's micro habit our way into success, because that change is incremental in time and then monumental over time.
And it takes a bit of the pressure off.
Yes. I have to tell you, one of the things I struggled with personally was meditation. And I just could not get myself to sit still and have that blank mind for any period of time. And I'm proud to say now that I genuinely have a daily meditation practice. That meditation practice entails one inhale and one exhale. That's it. One inhale, one exhale, minimal. And you know what? I feel great. And there are many days now that it extends to a longer period of time, but I get credit for that one inhale and exhale. So I feel great saying I have a daily meditation practice. I can be honest about it and not lie to myself or others about it.
Okay.
So that's the minimalist.
Yes.
What about the contrarian?
Yes. So everything we knew or thought we knew no longer holds true. How do you navigate this world where everything is up for renegotiation, debate, redefinition, and huge amounts of disagreement? Some of us might say, what problem? There's no problem with AI. Someone else will say, well, this is the problem. Someone else will say it's the opposite of that. That's the problem. And it's not just AI. It's just about everything we find ourselves living with and working in. And when you're in that kind of situation, the danger, the single biggest danger, is to assume that the things that have made us successful in the past are the things we should default to. And especially when we're under pressure, we tend to go into our default. We tend to go into doing what we always do. Yet, survival mode. And yet, it's our default that we need to really challenge and banish. We need to unlearn as much as we need to learn. And that's where the contrarian mindset comes along, is to meet us at this moment where we need to really question and turn everything on its head in order to succeed.
We're singing from the same songbook, Sabina.
We definitely are.
Now, here's another thing we were speaking about earlier. You've cited a really, really sobering statistic related to this unrelenting pressure. You say that 71% of leaders experience isolation and feelings of loneliness. How does this come out, or what are the implications of that?
Yeah, this comes from a study that was done, not by me, but I see this live out in the people I work with. It's not just isolation and loneliness, it's a fear. It's a fear of, I'm not equipped to lead in this moment. Now, we can always say it's lonely at the top. And of course, when you're at the top, people put you in a bubble and perpetuate that bubble for you, and you do the same.
A lot of filtering.
A lot of filtering. But right now, even more so, because first of all, if the CEO themselves thinks, I don't know how to meet this moment, they have a choice. Do they quit? Do they stay on and pretend like they know? while feeling like an imposter throughout, or do they become transparent about it? And if they become transparent, what happens to the organization if a CEO stands up and says, I'm completely clueless? What happens to shareholders? So there's a lot of nuance in how you do that. And so the higher you go, the more it rests on you to make that very complicated, very nuanced math on how do I speak the truth, yet not panic people in a way that I lose everybody around me? How do I mobilize people as opposed to push them away from
Sure.
me and my organization?
Let's talk about what we took from this big idea that you have, that everybody says, well, power is what corrupts, but you have a different take.
Right. Well, I have to live up to the contrarian promise, not just for the sake of being a contrarian, but I say that it is not power that corrupts us. It is pressure that corrupts us. And then power comes along and isolates us from the harm we might be causing. Because when I say pressure corrupts us, what does that mean? It means we act out in ways that we may not be proud of, that we certainly don't want captured on TikTok or Glassdoor about us. But I mean, we're all human. The last time I was cut off in traffic because I hadn't planned enough time to get to some place and it was an important meeting, I may have waggled a certain finger and used a few choice words in the confines of my own car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, amplify that when you're in a position of authority. Because power is like a broken volume knob. Everything people are saying upward is muted. Milder than what they're really thinking. It's cushioned in praise. When they tell you everything is fine, they mean I've started a secret group chat about your management habits.
Yeah.
And then everything that's coming downward is hugely amplified.
Yes. Well, that's where we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll dig deeper with elite executive coach, speaker, and author Sabina Nawaz about pressure-proofing your leadership, including a story that brings that big insight, that big idea that she just was talking about, to life. Stay with us.
This is Growth Igniters Radio with Pam Harper and Scott Harper. We're brought to you by Business Advancement Incorporated. That's us. And we're on the web at businessadvance.com.
Well, here we are in our 12th year of Growth Igniters Radio, and we're continuing to gain recognition as a top podcast. We've been honored by Thinkers 360 and Popcorn Podcast Awards, and we're also ranked in the top 5% of global podcasts by the podcast database Listen Notes. Building on this, you can now get episodes 2 ways through audio platforms such as Apple and Spotify and others that if you've been listening that way, perhaps, or growthignitersradio.com. And now you can start watching us on YouTube and other streaming platforms.
And if you're enjoying our podcast, help us out and become a recommender. Just open the podcast on whatever app you use and write a review, and share links to your favorite episodes on social media.
Welcome back to Growth Igniters Radio with Pam Harper, that's me, and Scott Harper. Today, Scott and I are speaking with executive coach, speaker, and author Sabina Nawaz, author of the book, You're the Boss, about her insights on pressure-proofing your leadership. Sabina, tell us how people can find out more about you and some of these insights that you've been sharing with us.
Pam, people can go to my website, sabinanawaz.com, which will be in the show notes. There, they will find more about me, but also if they buy a copy of the book, You're the Boss, they can download for free a number of resources and tools that they can immediately put to use.
Good.
Okay. Well, and you can find more information and links for this episode by going to growthignitersradio.com, episode 415, and scrolling down to resources. Now, in the first segment, we spoke about what prompted Sabina to write her book, You're the Boss, and what the premise is behind it. And we spoke a lot about pressure and that it's really not power that corrupts, which is her minimalist contrarian view, but it's really the pressure and the power goes hand in hand with that. So let's dig a little deeper. Now, Sabina, you have a story that brings this to life. Let's talk about that.
Well, Pam and Scott, what I didn't tell you in the first section of this episode is another reason, the unofficial reason why I chose to write this book. And that goes to my own story. For a long time, I was managing these teams that built software at Microsoft, and people told me I was the best manager they had. I cared about them. I coached them. Those were great years. Then everything changed. When I was running management development, I took on my boss's job as well. I was pregnant. And fast forward 5 months, coming back the first day to work after parental leave, putting on lipstick for the first time in 5 months, my assistant Lori calls me frantic. Where are you? Steve expects you in 30 minutes. Lori starts to read me the memo I'm supposed to discuss with Steve Ballmer, the CEO of Microsoft, while I hit warp speed on the freeway getting there. And that sets the pace and tone for my return to work. Calendar packed, inbox overflowing, an infant at home, no sleep, no peace, and no patience. So you can imagine, overnight, pressure corrupts. Overnight, I morphed from being kind and caring and nurturing to snippy and short. Still 5'3" short, but also short-tempered.
Yes.
And I told myself, look, these are big boys and girls. They can put on their big pants and figure it out. I don't have time to explain things, let alone provide details. I started micromanaging because I was concerned that they would look incompetent or I would look incompetent to high-level executives. Whenever people came by my office, I would leave all 10 fingers on the keyboard and look over my shoulder. The universal signal of, I'm very busy, you're less important than me, spit it out, move on, let's go. And the worst part of this was I thought I was slaying it. I was doing a great job. I was being so efficient until my colleague Joe stops by. And of course, here I am, all 12 fingers on the keyboard looking over my shoulder. Yes, Joe. And Joe says, Zach is crying in his office because of what you said. Now Joe has my full attention. My whole body turns hot with shame. My mouth goes dry, and I think, how did I get here? How did I go from being best boss ever to the boss from hell, to somebody people don't like and are afraid of? So I drink a glass of water. I cross over to Zach's office, ask if he'll go for a walk, and I say, Zach, I'm so sorry. There is no excuse for how I behaved. His eyes start to brim with tears. And it is in that moment that I realize this is what I want, to treat people with humanity. Because humanity, connection human to human is the oxygen of success. When we don't treat the people we work with well, they take revenge or they play video games. They even deliberately make mistakes, as research shows. What if we start there? And that's the genesis of thinking about writing this book. Through my hard work earned, and unfortunately, the collateral damage that I caused. And I have countless stories, which I cover in the book, of similarly many of my clients who think they're doing a good job, that they're actually there to win. They're there to create great results. They're there to be a good manager. Then they don't realize just how, in their isolation, in their power gaps that they have created, how much damage they're doing and how much they're working counter to the strategic goals that they're trying to achieve.
That's the hazard of all this pressure. It's so tempting to become focused incessantly on the content, the job, the things that need to get done. And as leaders, we can forget that our biggest job is leading, is being humans to other humans.
Yes.
Because that's where the real work gets done. It cascades all throughout.
Exactly, Scott.
And it's that flight, fight freeze, the amygdala takeover we've all heard about. And that's what we have to overcome. And
And
it's
there's
really, really hard.
yes, and there's something else here too. I was thinking about what you're saying, but I mean, yes, as Scott's saying, it's content, but of course, the game changes the higher you go.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have people listening who are at the top of their companies, corporate directors and CEOs, the kinds of
Yes.
people that we all work with.
Yes.
And they'll listen to this, they'll watch us and say, well, I already socialize with people. I already have these relationships with so many stakeholders. And it's a question of dealing with the pressure from opposing points of view.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to make a decision, and we have to make a decision, and there's no place to be. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So yes, I have to move fast. And this is exactly why another contrarian thing that I talk about, and I have a chapter called New Level, New Rules, where I say that getting promoted is often the most dangerous time in your career.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're nodding. You've seen that, right?
Yeah.
So what
Yes.
exactly? So what is it? And this is not, let me be very clear. This is not about what got you here won't get you there. This is about actually the very thing that you did as a strength is now being seen differently in those, as you were saying, Pam, in those opposing ways and very different ways by different people. So, I mean, actually, if you're willing to play, let me ask one of you, what's one of your strengths?
Getting to the heart of the issue.
Getting to the heart of the issue. Awesome. Yes. And I'm seeing that in the questions you're asking me. And so let's pretend that you were in an organization and you are really sharp, really good at getting to the heart of an issue as a manager. Now you get promoted and you become a manager of managers. So
Mhm.
now you're really not doing any of that content work. You're really doing all the container work
Right.
that is holding that space, creating a safe enough work environment, right?
Mhm.
And you get to the heart of the issues. How might that be viewed by other people?
Oh, that could be aggression.
Yeah.
I've seen that, I experienced it when I was going up the ladder. The very thing that people said, "Whoa, you can really
Yes.
do that." And
Yes.
then the higher you go,
Yes.
somebody takes it the wrong way.
Yes. She's
And
aggressive. She's not patient.
yes.
She doesn't listen well. Oh, she's already made up her mind. Why is she
Uh-huh,
here? Whereas
uh-huh,
in reality, you actually are just very quick at listening. And so the mistake would be to not get to the heart of the issue. The
mm,
question is, how do you end the two things? You
Yeah.
get to the heart of the issue and you convey first that you heard them, that you
mhm,
acknowledge them, that this idea is actually springing from some of the things that they have said.
Yeah.
mhm,
So that is very, very important the higher you go. And the higher you go, as you just said, you're going to tell yourself the story, but I don't have time to do this. And then
mhm.
the question is, how much time are you spending undoing what you have done?
Abs
More importantly, how much time are other people spending? The meetings they have after the meeting with the boss to divine what they actually meant, and then they
absolutely.
go down the wrong direction.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
You wasted a whole bunch of time for a whole bunch of people.
Terrible, terrible. Fortunately, when you're on the outside of the organization, people appreciate it
Yes.
a little more. But at the same time, I've learned a lot of things over the years, like we all have. And there are ways of going about it that you don't have to be aggressive. Uh,
Exactly.
you could get to the heart in a softer way. But it's also understanding that different people, of course, see that very same issue in different ways. It goes to what you were saying earlier, right? It's that's an important thing. And somebody else says, "No, it's not." you know, and you get
Yes.
a lot of these issues, and so it's important then to consider what you're saying is the game changes, the playbook changes. And that's one of the things I've been hearing about from more executive recruiters too, is that more companies are saying, we don't want people who have the old playbook. We want people in the top roles who are leading in different ways now. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. We cannot actually perpetuate status quo and
Uh-huh.
expect a different result. And as somebody wise once said, we don't resist change, we resist loss. In the midst of all this pressure, people are concerned about losing their very livelihoods.
Yeah.
So how do you speak to that loss? How do you shift things? You can no longer shove those emotions under the table like we did 30 years ago in the workplace, or even more recently. It's about actually acknowledging what's at the heart of this, naming those issues so that you can then claim them and move forward and bring people forward with you. You absolutely have to shift how you consider leading people. It's also less about position and power. It's more about participation. It's a much more participative way to lead, because when you don't know the answers, you don't lead alone.
Yeah. Somebody else might.
Somebody else might, or we
And you've got
co-create
to-
it.
Yes.
And you have to help them feel like you want to listen to what they have to say.
Well, we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, Scott and I will speak more with the lead executive coach, speaker, and author Sabina Nawaz about 3 immediately useful ideas for pressure-proofing your leadership. Stay with us.
You're listening to Growth Igniters Radio with Pam Harper and Scott Harper. We're brought to you by Business Advancement Incorporated, where we focus on enabling visionary leaders to dramatically increase the momentum it takes to achieve game-changing results. We're on the web at businessadvance.com.
Now, have you ever wondered if so many top leaders still believe it's important to lead for business transformation and long-term growth in this rapidly changing world? Why can it be so challenging to break what I call the orbit of their company's status quo? And it's an orbit because this is where everyone's busy going around in this year's cycle and not moving into that new direction. As an author and advisor to top leadership teams focused on growing their companies into the future, that was the question that set me on a long search for answers. So, what's the secret of the great leaders, those successful visionary leaders I call growth igniters? Well, that's what I cover in my keynote, Break Orbit, Achieving Long-Term Growth in a Short-Term World.
You can go to PamHarperSpeaks.com today to find out more about Pam's keynote and her availability to speak at your next leadership conference or executive retreat.
Welcome back to Growth Igniters Radio with Pam Harper and Scott Harper. Over the last 2 segments, Scott and I have been speaking with Sabina Nawaz, author of the book, You're the Boss. Sabina, remind us how people can find out more about you, your speaking, where to buy your book, and anything else you'd like us to know.
Sure. The one-stop shop would be my website, sabinanawaz.com. They can download for free resources that they can immediately put to use if they've bought a copy of my book. They'll also have links to book purchasing sites there, as well as can sign up for my pressure-proof Substack newsletter.
Which is an excellent newsletter. It really is. So you can also find more information and links for this episode by going to growthignitersradio.com, episode 415, and scrolling down to resources. So we are now at the part of the episode where we discuss 3 tangible, immediately useful ideas. And in this case, it's for pressure-proofing leadership. So let's discuss these 3 ideas one at a time. What's the first one?
All right. Well, Pam, the 3 are say nothing, do nothing, and never go to work hungry.
Okay, now we're going to expand that.
Yes, exactly. So let's double click on each of these. Saying nothing. Often people come into meetings thinking they have the weight of the world on their shoulders, and in many ways they do, and they over-participate, they over-function. So imagine how much pressure you're putting in yourself when you think you're the one who has to come up with everything that needs to be said. And when a boss comes into a meeting with a first draft or with a bunch of stuff that they have to say, yes, Scott, you're laughing. Why are you laughing about that?
I used to do that.
Yes. Yes. And
But I've learned
Yes. What did you learn?
that other people are the ones who actually get things done. And
Yes.
I have to enable that and listen.
Yes. Yes.
Then provide gigs.
Exactly. So if you come in with all the ideas, first of all, there's no such thing as a first draft then. There's no draft about it. They take that as gospel.
Sure.
Second, It quashes any creativity or especially any dissenting views. And we need all the views we can in a world where we don't know where things are going. So shut up. I have a 4-step exercise called exercising your shut up muscle. And one of those steps is be the third or fourth to speak. I mean, obviously, you convene people, you welcome them, you tell them the goal of the meeting. But when it comes to ideation, be the third or fourth to speak. So that's the say nothing step. Try that out.
Let's just go one step farther. Again, for people who are at the very top of their companies, their organizations, do they still come in and say nothing? What would you say they would do differently?
Yes, they would come in, they would frame the meeting, of course, again, here's what we're here to do. I do have some ideas, but first I would like to hear from others.
Okay.
And if I have anything new to add, I will. Otherwise, I think I trust this team to come up with a whole bunch of stuff. I'm so excited to hear from you.
I'm
And
glad you said this.
yeah,
Definitely
yeah.
glad you said this, because that's something that could help a lot of teams. Because sometimes at the top, I've seen, and maybe you have too, is people are like warring factions right away.
Completely.
And it's who's going to talk? I'm going to talk. No, I'm going to talk. No, I'm going to talk.
Yeah.
I like what you're saying about setting the framework for people.
Right.
Very useful.
Yes, and being transparent, because nature abhors a vacuum. If you suddenly came up and became silent, people are going to go, oh, is she quitting? Is she firing me? Or is the company going down?
Right.
So you do want to be transparent about what you're working on and what the intended outcome is to build that capacity in everyone around us. That's say nothing. Do
Okay.
nothing.
Okay.
When we are under pressure, our default tends to be, for most of us, to do more and more and more. For me, the number of sticky notes I have posted everywhere when my pressure rises is doubles. And we get up in the middle of the night with our brains racing. We give up our workout time or time with our loved ones. And all that does is simply continue to pile on more and more pressure and more work the next day. It doesn't really help move the needle. Instead, you can practice what I call blank space. This is a 2 hours a week of time where you completely unplug. You're not reading. You're not talking to anyone else. You're certainly not online. And you step away from it all to see what happens. Because research shows that our best insights come when we're not actively engaging the conscious part of our brain.
Right.
When we're in the shower, commuting, exercising. Well, let's carve out space for that then. Because the benefits of that around pressure are, first of all, it puts things in perspective. And you realize all those little sticky notes that you're getting so worked up about are really not what's most important. Second of all, you get a better rested brain. And third, you might very well get an insight that becomes a game changer. This has happened with countless executives I coach, where their business has accelerated, ignited in ways that it hadn't before when they took the time to step away and think through the bigger questions.
It's contrarian indeed.
And that's important, because when we're under pressure, we feel we got to get it done. We have to get it done. There's no room. I don't have time for that stuff.
Yes.
And
yes.
as you've pointed out, the brain is tricky. When it feels like it's going to get killed, it goes into shortcut.
Exactly.
This is the answer. And it might be the answer, or might have been the answer 10 years ago, not necessarily the answer now.
Exactly.
Creative place is not in the prefrontal cortex. It's back in the back where the intuition lives. And so give it space. It'll serve you well. Yes.
Exactly. So well said, Scott.
Yes.
And the third one, Sabina.
The third one, never go to work hungry.
Okay.
Okay. What do I mean by that?
Yes.
Now you've gone to the grocery store when you're hungry, right? And what has ended up in your cart?
Chips.
Yes. Ketchup chips for me. It's a Canadian thing.
Okay.
And similarly, when we go to work hungry for praise, affirmation, belonging, relevance, security, we indulge in junk behaviors.
Okay.
Oh, junk behaviors like?
So what It's easiest way for me to illustrate this is through an example. Keisha, who was very rapidly rising in her career, but her latest job, people were getting tired of her constantly launching into these heroic sagas. And her boss finally said, "You need to stop name dropping." And she was furious. We started digging deeper, and we isolated her hunger for relevance. At 51, she'd entered the decade known as the youth of old age. And she wondered, like, am I going to matter? Can I keep up with my younger colleagues? Now, we can relate to it. We can maybe even empathize with her, agree with her. But going to work hungry for that reassurance, for constantly needing to prove that she mattered, was severing the very connections that she was trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
So what can you do in that case? Is take a moment, and perhaps in one of your blank space dates, think about, what are the hungers that are deep inside you? Is it about needing to be recognized? Is it about being seen as the smartest person or more superior to anyone else who's there? Is it about relevance, like Keisha? Is it about wanting to be seen as a hero or a martyr? Is it about breeding just dependence on you?
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many different hungers. And which one is the one that's most dominant for you?
So do people actually know? How do they get in touch with what that is?
Yeah. 3-step process. So first of all, start observing yourself in action. When things in hindsight haven't gone as well as you thought, or they've gone opposite to what you think you were going to do, start watching yourself. What did you say? What did you do? When did you do it? So observe.
Mm-hmm.
Then you want to examine that further. What was going on in your head? What were you saying in your head that you needed to do? So like when Keisha noticed that she was name dropping, particularly when more senior people were in the room, her talk track was, if I don't lean on experts, nobody will like my idea.
Mm.
And so once you isolate that talk track, now experiment. And her experimentation was, I'm actually going to praise some of my colleagues' efforts instead of just constantly beating my own drum. She did that in small ways. And what she noticed was something very interesting, is that once she started doing that, her ideas started to gain more purchase. Her colleagues started to praise her efforts, and she didn't have to work so hard banging her own drum and turning off everybody else. So observe, examine, experiment.
Yes, and very tangible too. So here we are. We're at the end of the episode already. Can you leave us with some final thoughts about pressure proofing your leadership?
Some final thoughts about pressure proofing your leadership. The biggest one, I would say, goes back in centuries to Isaac Newton and Newton's laws of motion. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. When you're in a leadership position, your actions have a reaction. Are you aware? And how will you get more aware of what those reactions are?
Good thoughts to keep in mind. Well, Sabina, thank you so much for being our guest on Growth Igniters Radio.
Thank you so much, Pam. Thank you so much, Scott.
Oh, thank you, Sabina. And thanks to all of you out there who are listening to Growth Igniters
And watching.
Radio. And watching. To contact us and get show notes and resource links for this week's episode, or even schedule a call with us, go to growthignitersradio.com, select episode 415.
Until next time, this is Pam Harper.
And Scott Harper.
Wishing you continued success and leaving you with this question to think about and act upon. Starting today, what can I do to start the series of small steps it'll take to develop my leadership and that of others so it's pressure-proof?
Growth Igniters and Growth Igniters Radio with Pam Harper and Scott Harper are registered service marks of Business Advancement Incorporated. All Growth Igniters Radio episodes are copyrighted productions of Business Advancement Incorporated, intended for the private use of our audience. Except as otherwise provided by copyright law, all other uses including copying, editing, redistribution, and publication without prior written consent of Business Advancement Incorporated are prohibited. All rights reserved.